Hi, I'm Ashley and welcome to my channel. Today's video is one that I'm really excited for and a little nervous because I'm going to be reading two romantasy books that I've really been looking forward to reading, and those two are Sanctuary of the Shadow and To Kill a Shadow. So I'm really excited to read these and also a little nervous because there's always a chance that I won't like them. And I'm kind of more nervous for this one because I've seen mixed reviews about it, and I've seen a lot of views that skew on the negative side, but I just couldn't resist it because, first off, I love the cover and the edges, and also the description of it sounds like something I'll like. So I'm hoping I will like this. And then this one I haven't heard a lot about, but the one person that I have heard read it liked it, so that gives me more hope for this one. And this one has purple edges, which are also beautiful. I'm going to start with this one just in case it's a disappointment because I have higher hopes for this one, which it'd be funny if it actually ends up being the opposite. But I'm hoping I enjoy both of them. So that being said, I'm going to go get some lunch, and then after I eat, I'm going to start this, and I'll be back in a little bit with my first thoughts. This character has a tail. Apparently they're a Black Panther hybrid. That's very interesting. And she also has cat-like ears and sharp canines. And it looks like there's going to be elemental magic in here, which I love anything with elemental magic, so I'm all for that. Our main character has pointed ears. Is she an elf? I don't know. But she wears a headband to hide them. She's part of a circus, and the master of the circus thinks she is human, but she is not, apparently. There's a fox hybrid. I love foxes. The master of the circus has just appeared, and they're just describing him as tall and foreboding. He held his enchanted staff aloft, his long coat billowing behind him, and I just can't help thinking of Caraval and Legend, who is the leader of that little circus troupe. Hi, so I'm back with an update, and I'm happy to say that I am really enjoying this so far. I'm not very far in, but I am on chapter 5, page 60. So before I give my first thoughts, let me just tell you a little bit about what the story is about. So our story takes place in a world where there are humans, but there are also beings called elementals. And elementals, as their name suggests, they have elemental powers and they're related to the elements. So you have people that have water powers, air powers, stuff like that. And also there are elemental beings that are called hybrids. And hybrids have some of the features and traits of animals. For example, one of our characters in the book is a Black Panther hybrid, and so she has cat-like ears and a tail, and she has claws. So being a Black Panther hybrid, her hearing is better than humans, and she's also faster and stronger. Also, so far it seems that humans hate and fear elementals, and this seems to have partly to do with elementals also have elemental queens, and it seems like the elemental queens caused like a lot of tension and suffering for the humans, so now they kind of resent them and fear them. And our main female character is Haro, and she is an elemental. She is a water elemental, and she is the last of her kind because when she was 10 years old, the rest of her clan was massacred. And after that happened, she didn't really have anywhere to go, but she ends up being taken in by this ringmaster of a circus. And the circus is a sort of sanctuary for elementals because other elementals live there, and their ringmaster, who is also an elemental, protects them. And so Elementals also age differently than humans. They live for a lot longer. Elementals have 1,000-year lifespans, and Haro has been with the circus now for 50 years. So she is 60 years old in human years, but for an elemental, that's still really young. So that's chapter 1. You kind of just get introduced to Haro and her world and the world of the elementals. And then in chapter 2, we actually switch perspectives and we get introduced to our love interest. And his chapter starts off with him waking up in like horrible condition. He knows he's dying and he's injured, but he doesn't remember how he became injured, and he just feels like a lot of anger for whoever did this to him, but he doesn't know who did it to them. And so he's just kind of lying on the ground with vultures circling him, and he's like, doesn't want to die, but he can't really do anything because of the state that he's in. And it's also very clear that he is not human and that he is some sort of elemental because he has wings. And so we get about 2 pages from his perspective, and then the chapter switches to these other people. And these other people are these humans who are slave traders pretty much, because they go around and capture and sell elementals for profit. So they find our love interest and they end up capturing him, planning to sell him. And then the ringmaster of the circus actually ends up buying him, and you would think that he would be buying him to protect him, but actually the ringmaster seems to have some hatred towards our main love interest, so he probably knows something about him that we don't know yet. And it is revealed soon after that our love interest is what is known as a wraith, which they were apparently created by one of the elemental queens to get revenge for something that happened. And wraiths are supposed to have no form, and they're supposed to be like ghosts, but for some reason our male love interest got trapped in a solid form. And so the ringmaster plans on using our male love interest as an attraction, but it's keeping him in a cage, because at this point our love interest is just like full of anger and rage because he doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't know how he got there, and everyone has only treated him with hatred and hostility. So of course he's gonna be angry and upset. So the ringmaster leaves him in a cage in a tent, and no one knows that he's at the circus yet except for the ringmaster and the ringmaster's right-hand man. One night Haro ends up coming across the tent, and as a water elemental she is also a seer, so she gets like feelings and thoughts about things. And right now she's being told she needs to go into this tent, that it's important that she goes into this tent. So she listens to her feelings and she does that, and she sees our love interest, and of course she is feeling scared, like fear. She wants to run away, like she knows that he is very dangerous, but still something is telling her that she needs to approach his cage. So she does, and she just says hi to him, even though inside she's like, what are you doing? Like, he could kill you. She calls out to him, and he is confused because she is the first person that hasn't shown him hostility. And so he actually doesn't want to kill her because she's not wanting to kill him. And so they have like a little exchange where she asks him his name, and he doesn't have a name, at least he doesn't remember it. So he just like makes one up and says his name is Rafe. And then she is kind of upset that he's in a cage and wants to free him, but the cage is enchanted by the ringmaster, so she can't. And so I just thought this scene was like super cute with them meeting for the first time and kind of talking a little bit and getting to know each other. Like, I have a soft spot for scenes like that. Some other people might not like stuff like that, but I do. And then she ends up having to leave him because people are approaching the tent and she needs to get out of there because she shouldn't be there in the first place. But she promises that she'll go back and get him out of there. That is where I am in the story right now. So my thoughts, like I said earlier, I am really enjoying it so far, which I'm happy about. And I will say, if you look at this font in this book, it is kind of on the bigger side, but that doesn't bother me because it just makes it easier for my eyes. And I'm really finding the world and the magic system really interesting so far. I like how we have elementals and how they have these different types of magic, because I love elemental magic. Anything with elemental magic I will just eat up, so that's what I'm doing. And I also really like the hybrids too, because I feel like that's something that I would write myself into a story, so I really like that. I'm liking the whole circus setting, but I have a feeling that they might end up leaving the circus because if she's gonna free him, then they can't stay in the circus. And it's clear that the ringmaster is not gonna let this guy just roam free because he doesn't like him and he knows the true nature of our love interest. And I think that the love story between these two is just gonna be really cute and sweet, and I love those types of stories. So I can't wait to read more about that. And yeah, that's all the thoughts I have so far because I'm not that far, but I am happy that my initial reaction is that I'm really enjoying this, and I hope that continues. And I will be back with more thoughts once I've read more, and I hope they are positive thoughts. Hi, so I am back with an update on this book. It has been about a week since my last update because I ended up getting sick. And I'm finally starting to feel better. I'm not 100% yet, which you can tell by my voice. So I'm sorry if my voice sounds really bad. But I'm getting there. And hopefully soon I'll feel 100% better. And so I haven't really done any reading for the last 3 days because I didn't want to read while I wasn't feeling great because I didn't want that to affect how I would be feeling about the book. And I was at the point in this where I wanted to give an update on my thoughts right now. So I have made it to chapter 16, page 223. So I'm a little more than halfway through this book and I'm loving it right now. I do feel though that there's something that is about to happen in this book that will probably make or break the book for me. So my feelings could change depending on how that is handled. So that's why I wanted to give my update now before I continue on. And I do very much feel that this book is probably a book that you're either gonna love or you're gonna hate. Because there are some tropes in here that I feel like some people might not like. And one of those that this book is heavily leaning on is the soulmates trope. So the romance in here is moving really fast because of that trope. But I've been like eating it up so far. And the book so far has been very character focused. It has been mainly focusing on our two main characters, Harrow and her love interest Rafe, getting to know each other and their romance. So if you're more of a plot reader, this might not be for you because this book is very character driven and I'm more of a character reader, so it works really well for me. And I have found just like the scenes of them getting to know each other just to be really cute, and it is kind of sappy, but I have a soft spot and a weakness for sappy stuff like that. And I will say the relationship has been moving very fast because we weren't even like quite 150 pages in and you get the first steamy scene and I was a little shocked, I'm not gonna lie, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna roll with it. And there's also has been more like revelations about Harrow and Rafe's past and how their pasts are interconnected in some way, so that has been very interesting to read about. And while Harrow and Rafe are getting to know each other and falling in love, we also get perspectives from Harrow's best friend, and in her chapters we kind of learn something about Rafe that is definitely the thing that is going to make or break the book for me depending on how that is handled, because she learned something that at some point the main character Harrow is going to learn and everything is just going to go to hell. So depending on how that is handled is going to determine my final feelings about this book. But that is where I'm at in this book. I'm hoping to finish it up over the next couple of days. I do have work later on today, but I'm off tomorrow, so I should be able to finish it between today and tomorrow. And I also have a package that I want to share. And this isn't a bookish thing, but this purchase was inspired by a booktuber. So I'm going to share it because I'm excited about it. So I have it right here. And so it's one of those tea light carousels. And here are all the pieces. I have to still put it together, but this one has little stars that are going to dangle and spin around. And this purchase was very much inspired by Katie is Reading because she has a calcifer one in her videos that is really cute, and so I wanted to get one. So I bought this one off of Amazon because it was really cheap and I like the stars. So I will show that fully assembled in some b-roll. And so I will be back with my final update once I finish Sanctuary of the Shadow. Hi, so it is the next day, and I am back with my final thoughts on this because I finished this morning and I ended up loving it. So I know how I was talking about in my last update that there was something that was going to happen that could either make or break this book, and it ended up being handled really well, so I was really happy for that because I really wanted to love this, and I did. And one other thing that I was worried about when reading this book is this is the first book in a series, because if you go on Amazon, it says it's part of the Elemental Emergence series. As I was reading this, I was like, I feel like this story doesn't need another book because the main focus of this story is Harrow and Ray's relationship and their romance. And that's the main focus of this book. And I felt like the relationship was moving really fast and that everything was going to be wrapped up in this one book. And I felt like their story only needed one book to feel complete. And one of the things I hate is when a story is just unnecessarily dragged on for longer than it needs to be. So I was really hoping as I was reading this that it would be one of those series where each book can stand as a standalone. And so each book would follow a different character but set in the same world. And it looks like that's exactly what the next book is going to be, which made me really happy. So the next book is going to follow a character who is introduced in this one, and she's a minor character that I really like, so I'm really excited to read the next book in this series. And that character that the next book is going to follow is going to be Malika. And Malika is Harrow's best friend, and they have like a sister-like bonds. And she's just a very interesting character because she is a panther hybrid, and she is the acrobatic star of the circus that her and Harrow work at. And she has just this very mysterious and dark past, and I want to know more about that, so I'm glad that the second book is going to be about her. And also there's another character introduced in here, a minor character, that I hope is going to end up being the love interest for her, because just of what I've seen of him in this book and the interactions between him and Malika are just already been like awesome, and their chemistry so far is already great, so I think there's a lot of potential there, so I do hope he ends up being the love interest. But anyways, so this did have a happily ever after, which I loved because I love my books with happy endings, and I feel like the overall feel of this book, I wanted to call it fairy tale like, because it just had like a dreamlike feeling to it, and just the way things happened kind of felt like a fairy tale. And I feel like that might be an aspect of this book that some people might not like, because like a fairy tale, I feel like sometimes convenient things happened, which didn't really bother me because I don't read books for realism. I read them to escape, so I don't care if there are some unrealistic things happening in the book as long as I feel some sort of attachment to the book. And I was definitely attached and invested in Harrow and Ray's relationship. Like, that is the main focus of the book. So if you don't like the soulmates trope, or you don't like Harrow and Rafe as characters, then this book probably isn't going to be for you. But if you do like the soulmates trope, and if you like a male character who is overprotective and will burn down the world for their lover, because that's what Rafe is, and if you like the one bed trope, because that's in here as well, but also if you like books that have a main focus on the romance, but also have an interesting elemental magic system thrown in here, then I think you should check this out. And my favorite part of this book was definitely the relationship between Harrow and Rafe, and I just love them as characters and love seeing them interact and seeing how the relationship progressed. And I also really liked the magic system in here because I have a soft spot for elemental magic systems, and I thought this one was very interesting and fascinating to read about. And so if any of this sounds interesting to you, then I suggest you check out this book, because one of my favorite things is that reading is subjective, so no one person is going to have the exact same experience from reading a book, even if you're reading the same book. And I think that's what makes reading so great. And I feel that even if a book has mixed reviews, if there's something about it that interests you, then you should check it out, because who knows, it could end up being a book that you love. And that's what happened to me with this book. I was nervous first going into it because of the mixed reviews, but I ended up loving it, so I'm really happy that I picked it up. But anyways, I am really happy that I ended up loving this book. And I am hoping that the next book that I'm going to be reading for this video, To Kill a Shadow, will also be a book that I end up loving. Okay, so I'm back with a reading update because I started To Kill a Shadow yesterday. And I read some more of this morning, and I had to stop myself from devouring this whole thing this morning because I just kept being like, just one more chapter, and I wanted to come on here and give my thoughts before I finished the whole entire thing. So I'm currently on chapter 22, page 170. And so our story takes place in a world where the sun goddess has gone missing, and as such, there is no sun, there is no daytime. There is only nighttime and the stars and the moon. And one of our main characters is Kiara, or Ki as she's known to her friends as. And she lives in a small village where she is kind of an outcast because of something that happened, and her only friend is her brother Liam. But unfortunately, she's going to have to be parting from her brother soon because her brother, along with all the other boys of a certain age in her village, are being recruited into the Knights of the Eternal Stars. And being recruited into these Knights is pretty much a death sentence, because these knights venture into the cursed lands where there is this evil mist that will infect your mind and make you see things and do things. The reason the knights go into these lands is because they believe the key to finding the missing sun goddess lies somewhere in those lands. However, in a twist of fate, Kira ends up being recruited instead of her brother. And the one that recruits her is the commander of the knights, who is also known as the Hand of Death. And he is our other main character of this book, and so the book switches between his and Kiara's perspective. And this commander of the knights, his name is Jude, and he, in addition to being the commander of the knights, also does all the king's dirty work for him, and he is the one that the king sends to assassinate people. And the king in this book is a very ruthless and cruel person, and even if you just look at him the wrong way, he will order your death. So Kira is recruited into these knights, and our story goes from there. And so now for my thoughts so far. So I'm not going to lie, at the beginning of this book, I wasn't really feeling it. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I have a feeling it has to do with the book being in first person. Because this might be an unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer third person over first person. And Sanctuary of the Shadow was in third person. And I read another book for a different video before starting To Kill a Shadow, and that other book was also in third person. So I think it just took me a moment to adjust back to first person. However, then around page 90, everything just like clicked for me, and all of a sudden I couldn't put this book down. I just kept flipping the pages and just going, one more chapter. I think one of the reasons that this book finally pulled me in is because the found family trope comes into play. Because Kira ends up befriending these three other recruits, and they kind of respect and admire her, and together they become a sort of found family, and they're always sticking together and doing all their training together. And while they bicker, they always also have each other's backs, and I just found their dynamic to be so heartwarming. And I just love the found family trope so much because it always brings like a wholesome element into the story. And speaking of characters, I am liking Kira as a character so far. One of the things I really like about Kira is that she is very loyal to her friends, and she'll always have their backs. And also, even if a person is not her friend and someone is in trouble and she has the power to save them, then she will do that. And so far, Kira is reminding me a little bit of Selena from Throne of Glass. And I really like how Kira is physically strong, but also the book explains why she has the physical abilities that she does. And even though she is very strong, it is still clear that there are other people that are stronger than her. So this shows that she is not all-powerful or invincible, which I really like, because she still has room to grow. And then in addition to Kira, I'm also liking Jude, our other main character. And he is reminding me a little bit of Commander Rip from the Plated Prisoner series. And I'm just really enjoying the dynamic between him and Kira so far. Their relationship is very much like the hot and cold type of romantic relationship, because their relationship is kind of forbidden, and they banter a lot, and the banter is good. They also push each other's buttons a lot, and it's just really amusing reading that. And in addition to our main characters, there are also some side characters that I'm really liking so far as well. And that does worry me because I'm already feeling attached to some side characters, and I'm afraid that some of them are going to end up dying, and my heart is going to end up breaking a little bit. And another aspect of this book that I am finding fascinating so far is the world building. I'm just very intrigued by the whole plot of the sun goddess and how she went missing, and I'm interested to see where that goes. And one other thing that I wanted to mention that kind of ties into the world building is that there are these little excerpts before the chapters that either tell you something a little bit about the world or about the characters, and I just think that those are a really cool addition and also a good way to do more world building as well. But yeah, those are all my thoughts so far. I'm just finding this book a lot of fun to read right now, and I'm interested to see where the story goes. And where I'm at the story now, they're just about to enter the cursed lands where the mist is, and I am excited but also very nervous because I'm afraid that people are gonna die. I don't know how much more reading I'm going to be able to do today because unfortunately I have to go clean my apartment, and I also want to bake some cookies later on. But before I do all that, I am going to go get some lunch. Hi, so I had some lunch and I cleaned up my kitchen a little bit, and now I'm back in my kitchen again to make some cookies and make a mess again that I'm gonna have to clean up again, but that's how that goes. But anyways, I decided I wanted to bake something today, but I didn't want to bake anything that was too time consuming or too complicated. So I decided to go with one of my husband's favorite cookie recipes, and a recipe that I also really like that uses a box cake mix. And so today I'll be baking banana pudding cookies. And so I have everything I need for them right here. And I will link the recipe down below if you're interested in making these. The recipe does call for white chocolate chips, but I use butterscotch chips instead. And this box of pudding is too big, so I'll just have to measure that out. But yeah, so let's get baking. Hi, so I am back with a reading update. I've actually finished all of Tequila Shadow. It's actually been almost a week since I finished this, so I am back with my final thoughts finally. So I ended up really enjoying this. I'm giving it 4 stars. I'm not giving it 5 because I didn't quite love it and didn't quite get that 5-star feeling. But that being said, I still really enjoyed it. I really liked Kira and Jude as characters. I liked how Kira was strong and how she had a reason for being strong, how she had backstory. And she was also impulsive at times, but she never reached the level where it was annoying, where sometimes that when a character is impulsive, it can be a red flag for me because sometimes the impulsiveness is taken too far and they make stupid decisions, but I feel like she never did that, so I really like that about her character as well. And then I also like Jude. He's pretty much your swoon-worthy male fantasy romance love interest. And he also has a very interesting backstory as well. And I really liked learning more about his character throughout the story and piecing together his past. And only one thing bothered me about Jude, and that was sometimes he was hot and cold and wish-washy with his feelings towards Kira. Like, he always liked her, but the thing he was wish-washy about was, like, whether he wanted to act on his feelings or not, and sometimes he went back and forth a little bit too much, and it got a little bit annoying at times, Because one moment he'd be like, oh yes, I'm going to show my feelings for her. And the next moment he'd be like, oh no, I'm not going to because I shouldn't. It's better. Like, I'm protecting her by not showing my feelings. And first of all, I don't like the whole idea of like, oh, I'm hurting you, but I'm doing this for your own good thing. Like, I don't like that. And then after that, he would go back to the, oh, I'm going to actually show my feelings again for her and act on my feelings. So that was just a little annoying at times. But overall, I really enjoyed their romance and seeing their relationship develop, and they had good banter. But while I really did enjoy the romance, something that I actually enjoyed more in this book than the romance was the themes of friendship. There's a friendship between Kira and a certain side character that I thought was just so well done, and I absolutely loved it. This book really explored that relationship, and I feel like this book balanced the relationship and the romance really well. Like, I feel like they both got equal times to shine. I feel like you don't see that as much. I feel like it's usually always the romance that's highlighted more than the friendship in a lot of books, especially in fantasy romance books. And you might have like a main character and their best friend, but that still takes a backseat to the romance. But in this one, I feel like they were more on equal terms, and I just really loved the friendship in this one. It was so heartwarming and also times heartbreaking because things happen. And I know I mentioned earlier that I was really liking the minor characters, but I was worried that some of them were going to die, and that does happen. Minor characters do die in here. And my heart broke multiple times, so just be aware if you're a person who gets attached to side characters that some of them do die in here, so be ready for pain and heartbreak. And while this is definitely a fantasy, it also has a lot of horror elements as well. And so for the majority of this book, they are going into these cursed lands where there's these fog and things play with your mind, and there's monsters in here that are really creepy. And there are definitely some gory and graphic scenes in this book as well. And I'm just thinking of one scene in particular that I read it and it was just, ooh, it was so like gory, and I was just reading it, I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna say what it is because kind of spoiler what happens, but that scene was intense. And this book was definitely very twisty and turny and always kept me on my toes. There were things that happened and things that were revealed that I did not see coming. And I think that's one of the differences between this one and Sanctuary of the Shadow. This one I feel like was really predictable, which I was fine with. But if you really like books with twists and turns, then this is the book for you. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this is the first book in a series, and for whatever reason, when I was reading this, I thought it was a standalone, and then I got to the end, and the epilogue, like, set things up for more stuff happening, and I was like, wait, this can't be a standalone. There's no way. So I went and I looked it up online, and this is a series. The second book is coming out on December 3rd, which is actually a day before my birthday. So I'm glad this isn't a standalone because the way it ended, I need to know more. So yeah, those are all my thoughts on To Kill a Shadow. I recommend this if you like fantasy with horror elements, if you like twisty, turny books, and if you like books with strong themes of friendship. So to wrap up this video, here are the two books I read, Sanctuary of the Shadow and To Kill a Shadow. I ended up loving this one. I liked this one a little bit more than To Kill a Shadow, but again, that's just like 100% my own personal preference, and I still feel like this one is probably going to be a book that people either love or hate, depending on your reading preferences, whereas this one might be more of a book for everyone, but those are just my personal opinions. But if you think either of these sound interesting, then I definitely recommend checking them out. And so if you made it to this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!